Welcome to Toffee TV. Here is the final word. Brighton and Hove Albion 0, Everton 0. It's probably not going to be the longest final. Well, actually, I don't know. It's not going to be the most entertaining one because there's no goals to talk about.
It might be entertaining.
But, I said the most entertaining. I think an 8-7 would be more entertaining.
I mean, you've already started.
But,
Which means to go on.
The Piv is back. Andy the Piv is back in the house to talk about loads of goals. It was a ball fest, but let's get into it. Ped, we did the we were doing a live show, weren't we, when the team news come out, and we'd already heard a little thing about the team beforehand, and we were a little bit disappointed that certain players were missing, and I guess the game played out in that same manner of some of our best players weren't actually in our team, and it bore that out.
Yeah, it showed the lack of strength in the squad again. I know we got a lot of players injured.
8 players were out last night.
No, but but
I'm just saying.
I'm not. The squad's crap. It's as simple as that. The squad is garbage. You should still have. I know people might disagree with me on this, but I still think you should have that amount of players out and still have players on the bench. And we should have. I think for us, some of those players last night on the pitch should have been probably some of the players who were on the bench. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it wasn't our strongest.
Or other players should. Even there were players out. That's
okay.
That's the difference. Right, okay. People like Tom Davis, Michael Keane, which should have been on the bench anyway last night, even if you had 8 players out.
If you had a big enough squad.
If you had a normal size squad, our squad is atrocious. And we've said it all season. And it's mad for a club that carries so many players. And it's mad. I know people might disagree, but in terms of some business, it's mad that a player like Mo Besic isn't anywhere to be seen when you're still paying him. That to me doesn't.
And you registered them in January.
That doesn't make any sense to me. No, you can argue what you want about that, and that's fine. I've got no problem with that. But it just seems mad from the point of view of a football club. Like, you've got a player like him that could be around the fringes, and I'm not saying he should be or whatever. I'm just saying that's, as a club, we're in such a weird state where we have a bench full of kids, and yet we've got players like Mo Besic. We've got a player like Mo Besic registered who doesn't make the bench. So what exactly are we trying to do? Or you know what I mean? It's all just one big mess. And as I've said for a while, I can't wait till this season ends because it still doesn't feel very real, and that's why I'm not going mental about anything either, because I just don't think it's real, apart from winning the derby, which was real.
That was massive.
Yeah, that was real.
TV sport. Andy, I mean, as Ped just said there was players missing. There was 8 players missing, and whether you agree with Ped or you don't, our bench would have been a lot healthier with 8 players being fit. Whether that would have been good enough anyway that's a different debate. But quite clearly, when you seen that Everton subs last night with a couple of young keepers on it and things like that.
Yeah, I understand. I think Ped's right in the sense that you'd hope for after 5 years of spending, we'd be in a better position. Obviously, different factors have come in where different change of managers, ill fit in the squad. That's fair enough. I think another thing is the academy. Obviously, I think is now getting into a more healthier state. I think though, whereas usually teams would have a couple of academy players ready to come in and maybe contribute, the ones that we like and are the ones that we consider talented are probably still about another 18 months away. Your Warringtons, your Prices, your Onyangos, they can't really contribute to the fit. So there's a gap there of depth that we're missing, which obviously has to be plugged eventually. But no, I think you look at any team, you take apart from Man City, you take 8 players out of most teams. Look at West Ham's bench the other day; they had a better first team out than us probably, but their bench was full of kids as well. And I think, looking back at this season, I think, taking it just outside Everton, I think the real issue is the schedule. Like, the players had 3 weeks off last summer. Was that enough mentally and physically? Probably not. And now we're seeing how bad the football is going to get over the next couple of weeks. And then the Euros, it's going to be, even next season's probably going to be a little bit of a rough start as well. You're going to still be getting injuries. So, yeah, overall, I think we need a better squad. That's the be-all and end-all of it, really, isn't it?
I mean, just on to, the team he went with last night. He had no choice, really, did he? When you looked at Alex Iwobi was the only.
The team wasn't actually a bad team, apart from again The midfield. The midfield is just abysmal. It's abysmal.
Well, Mason Holgate went in. I actually thought Mason Holgate had a decent game.
He had a decent
in
game,
midfield
but
as
he's
a
not.
defensive
There's
midfielder,
not. But players are. This is the big problem with Everton. Let's be honest, right? Players are so fixed to their position, if that makes sense. There's no fluidity. No one breaks through the lines. No one carries the ball.
Yeah.
No one in our team picks the ball up and runs with it. Nobody apart from maybe Ben Godfrey, and he's a centre back. Nobody runs with the ball. So everything is then to the point where it's about passing, and we are one of the worst passing sides in the Premier League. We are absolutely atrocious. I have no idea what they do in training. I don't know. You can get 11 Premier League players together who can't pass the ball. It's unbelievable how bad it is. So we're not good at passing, and we're not good at moving the ball by running with it. So you've got players. No, but what it does is you look at someone like Mason Holgate and Tom Davis in an isolation. You can go, yeah, they were all right tonight, but they don't do anything. Do you know what I mean? Tom sits in a position and doesn't move from it. Well, that's fine. But then Mason Holgate does exactly the same job last night as well. So he doesn't move out of it. Gylfi Sigurdsson, we know, basically, he got the same fella from Shavas Park who's drawn all the big social distancing circles, right? And he's had one drawn around him. And that's what he does before every game. He gets the social distancing fella to draw that circle for him, and he doesn't leave that circle.
He doesn't turn in the circle, to be fair, but yeah.
So we've got three players in midfield who simply just occupy their own little area of the pitch, and no one moves through that. And Rodriguez, who is playing up basically off the striker, decides that he wants to come and take the ball off the centre-backs because no one else is picking the ball up. So, I mean, if you want to look at where the problems are, I mean, that tells you straight away. You can put 11 players on the pitch very easily in the Premier League that have all got international experience and all look great and all the rest of it. But if they don't do anything, if they don't actually move anywhere, and when you basically look at it and go, Seamus Coleman's your most mobile player on your pitch, you know you've got issues. You know because he was our most mobile player. You can say he can have a good game, you can say he's a bad game. But what you can say is he's our most mobile. And that is terrifying. That is showing you the state of this squad. It's horrendous. Oh my God, it's horrendous.
It's something, obviously, I mean, we've done videos on it last summer about the midfield, didn't we? We sat here 12 months ago going, God, just let's get through to the summer because we know we have to buy midfield players. Without trying to make too many excuses, Everton have had a team that what people would perceive as the best 11. It's been on the pitch 6 times this season. It's won 5 games and drawn 1. It hasn't been on the pitch since October. And that's a problem. Carlo Ancelotti would sit down and go, well,
that's football.
My best team. It's football, but my best team is all right.
Yeah.
Because we've done this, this and this. But, I mean, Ped said many times, how often do you play your best 11? Most teams don't play the best 11, do they, all the time? And Everton, again, we're in this situation where I think it's very, very easy to see what Everton need. I don't think you need to be clever. I don't think you need to look and go, oh, well, this is what we're going to try and do. We need mobility. Ped just said it then. It's almost like you get punished if it's almost like a reverse. The floor is lava. If you read this little box, everywhere else is lava because they don't move. You look at a team like Brighton, who are coached in a certain way. A lot of Evertonians would look at Brighton's team and go, I wouldn't have him, and I wouldn't assume that everyone won't because everyone's talking about him. There's a few others, Ben White's a good defender, and there's a couple of others, but you wouldn't look at it necessarily and go, he's great. But yet they're another team that has passed Everton off the park in terms of the way they play. Now, okay, they get to the final third, they don't do anything. That's not really on them to get goal scorers. It costs money, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's quality, yeah.
But from an Everton perspective, it's imbalance, isn't it? Is the correct word, isn't it? Or unbalanced, whichever way you want to look
at it. So. I think, again, with the mismatch of the managers buying different players, you've got too many specialists. Like when we signed 3 number 10s, James and Gylfi Sigurdsson really can't play in the same team because James wants to take up those positions and Gylfi's not really as effective unless he does play in those positions. So, again, and you don't... I think when we've got Alan, we've got Takore. If we had Gabam, the Mainz version of Gabam, anyway, that's a myth now. But if we had those players, then different team altogether because you've got move and pace. They can do all 3 of them can play defence and field, box to box, whatever you want them to. good when, as Ped says, sits deep, plays simple, keeps it simple. But when you've got another player like Mason Holgate next to him, he's just doing exactly. I know Mason's got a better passing range than Tom, but we just don't have anything. And that depth. That's why when everyone, some people go, well, why hasn't Carlo done this, and that? We need continuity because you need to start buying players. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't go out and buy another load of 29-year-olds for the purpose of...
No.
We need any players we buy from now on need to be able to transition in case we ever change the manager again. That we don't have to go, right, we need to rip all this up again. You just can't do that. You have to have it. So, like you say, it should be easy. Sign athletes, pace, and players who are flexible with the positions.
Well, we have to, you look at the kid they had in the midfield, Basuma. That's exactly the model we should be looking at. And, me and Andy were talking about him on the way into the studio and talking about, where he come from and where he'd be going next. I mean, we've probably missed out on both ends, haven't we now? And a lot of people are looking at that play, and, all last year you were raving about the kid in France.
Sangari.
Yeah, Sangari's going to... It's baffling now when you look at it and you look at how often we've had those players. Don't get me wrong, Decore's played most of the season. Let's be honest. He hadn't missed a game till he picked up that injury. So it's not like we can say, but by not going out and getting someone for 8 million quid who was in the mould and you were never going to lose money on, it's baffling to me that. And this club has got to start looking at those targets because, but the shame is everybody else is looking at those targets now. We were saying Zuma came from Lille, didn't he? But Lille now, everyone's looking at Lille because not only are they a good side, but people are looking at them going, they've got the model.
The talent factory, yeah.
People will be looking at and going, where are Lille looking at buying now? Not even who you want from Lille. Yeah. And we have to go and get 2 or 3 in the mould of Ben Godfrey. Players can play week in, week out, but can actually do something on the pitch, can go through the gears. We've got too many static players, and it shows. It just absolutely shows.
In a different reality, though, as I said, if those 3 players are fit and Fabian Delph wasn't injured, that wouldn't be a bad midfield four. In reality, if everything was perfect, I know it's not, so in reality it does bite in that case. But that wouldn't really be the way, with Tom Davies as your 5th maybe. That's not bad. It's just that, injuries. But then what comes in after that then is you've got Gylfi Sigurdsson has to drop and play deeper in midfield. He just can't do it. He can't move. Gylfi Sigurdsson's really good off, set pieces, open play, not so great. And he's got 2 assists out of this season from open play. Doesn't create as many chances as other players from open play. But this is the problem. Until we get a bit of continuity and start buying more of the type we bought last season, Gabaman types, whatever you want, we're not going to have that flexibility and fluidity in the squad. So when we do get injuries, we've got him to plug in here. And I think the other issue is you say about, Brighton played Mo the last night, who cost 6 million from Poland. I don't think Everton are in a position where they'll take risks like that. I think Brighton will do because that's their model. I think Everton have been too, and I understand this because Everton's a high pressure club. We're always 3 games away from a crisis. We don't buy players like that. You see what happened with Moise Keane, who's obviously a much more expensive version. Our fans aren't sometimes patient enough for those types, and I think other clubs are. We need to get out of that because that's where it needs to change.
It's a shame though, because you say that this year would have been a perfect opportunity to get someone in to bed them in at the club for for that year. Not only that, if you buy a Decore and you buy an Allen, and you've already got a Tom Davies, and you've already got an Andre Gomez, and you've already got a Gylfi Sigurdsson, it would have been a good opportunity to get someone in and go, well, your first year is going to be in and around the squad, and probably wouldn't have started the early games, but would have broke through organically. You've got to buy players almost a year before, haven't you? And this year would have been a good opportunity to that. Rather than doing what we generally do is wait till the very last minute. We're doing it again with the right back. We're waiting for the very last minute. So all the pressure now. So whoever we get at right back now comes in, and they're starting right back, and all the weight of the world's on their shoulders, because what have we been crying out for a right back? So then there's no patience on that player, because it's like, you have to do it. We paid X amount for you this season. Ben Godfrey's a good example of the other way, is where we bought this kid, no expectation on him, and we were already well stocked at centre back, and yet it's come through as the season has gone on and has progressed. And now I would argue that in terms of the future, he's our number 1 centre back. He will go forward now as our number 1 centre back. Because he's got all the attributes. But we do that so little that it heaps all that pressure on. So if we go out and buy a centre-back in the summer now, a centre midfielder, whoever it is, whether they're ready now or they're not, if they're ready now, then the price tag's huge. All the pressure's on them, every game.
Well, this is why we got Marcel Brands, because he used to do this so well at PSV. He'd have this plan over a 3 or 4 year period where he'd go, all right, I've got Depay now, but when Depay goes, I've got Gakpo, I've got Ihataren ready, or whoever, Stephen Bergwijn when it was Depay, ready to come through. I've got these players I'm developing. I've bought this young lad from South America. He's going to come through behind them. The problem is with Everton, I think, and I think this partly is changing managers. I think also our main plan is to make Europe every season, isn't it? I don't think Everton have got like a plan of transition up the gears, I guess. And I think we try and jump, and like Ped says, there is a lot of pressure on players. Like, I know that we need 4 or 5 players in the summer, but some of them won't come in and hit the ground running. They just won't. The variable, and that's the problem. There's the expectation that they're going to change.
We're talking about midfield.
They shouldn't have
right,
to be,
because the engine room is key in every single team.
Oh, it is massively. So it's the most important position. Yeah.
Right. You just named the midfield last night and the reasons why it didn't go through the gears and it didn't do this. But if we had Gbamin fit, and we've got Allen, and we've got Decore, we still need another one, because otherwise we're going back to what we had last night with Tom Davis, Fabian Delph, if he's still a fit. I mean, I'd be chasing him as quickly.
I don't know if he is, I think.
I'm not sure if he is.
I think he got cancelled.
Maybe he did. A Netflix show. Andre Gomez, what does he offer? Gylfi. So Everton need another Gbamin type athlete in there, and it might. It might be.
If he is not going to be the 4th or 5th, you don't need to spend 25 million on them. But if he is going to be, then you do it.
Me and you talk all the time about certain players. I'll say, and what about him? Or you'll go look at him, and we'll do it. And I'll go, what about this kid? And we'll have a conversation about it, because they're everywhere. There's this thing that Everton seems to have. It's like as if we can only look in this place. Like, France has been a great breeding ground for those athletic types. Germany, Dennis Zakari, 12 months left on a contract at Mönchengladbach. They're not in a great bargaining position now with 12 months left on someone.
And they're going to miss the Champions League.
They're going to miss the Champions League. So, and money's at a premium everywhere. Why not go and get him? 24 years of age. He's not perfect, but he's athletic. He can get up and down. Good, he could be a starter. But he's also the one who he can dip in and dip out and go, well, you're not playing well enough, sit on our bench, because we've got Decore, we've got Allen, we've got Gbamin now.
Rotate them in as well.
And then Gbamin, say Gbamin comes back and is fit and strong. Do we really want him to play 38 games next season? You want to be able to go to him. You've played 6, come and sit on the bench. And this fella's coming in, not, John Philippe or Decore, you've been great, you've been running here, there and everywhere, but you're going to come out and we're putting Tom Davies in, and that means the whole team changes, and that for me is a huge problem with Everton.
It is, and I think there's also a middle bit where we can't sign players. Like, look at Brighton, they signed Moder for 6 million, Carbarnik, the right back, for I think 4 or 5 million, and they've also signed Caicedo, we were interested in.
Yeah.
I think Everton, because of the FFP issues, we can only sign first team. We can't seem to have money for other areas. I don't know why. The academy, we haven't spent any money on academy players, barring Kunku, and he was 250 grand because he was out of contract. We haven't been out, obviously there was a ban as well, but we haven't really spent money in that area because all the money and all the resource has to go on the first team. So I suppose we have to get in a bit of a healthier position before we can take some projects on. But it would be nice, I agree. There's players out there that you could bring in for 7 to 10 million who who are good players. You just need a bit of season under Carlo Ancelotti, good manager. I just don't think Everton are in the position, because of how close we are to FFP, to do that, and that's the issue. Maybe we've tried to rush things too much at times rather than planning it stage plan. Like when Bashiri first came and we spent all that money, it's really held us back now because of that. We didn't plan it properly, I guess. But I think we will be in a healthy position going forward. I think there seems to be the thinking quality and the right type, and that the type's the most big, and quality's the big part, because we can't have a squad that's ill-fitting anymore. We need a well-rounded, fluid squad that can do different types of jobs in different situations.
Did we go into this game trying to get a point, by the way? Because it looked like it, didn't it? It looked like we were trying to get a point.
We played 6 defenders before, though.
No, not that. I thought from the off we looked like we were trying to conserve energy with the bench the way it was, and with having a game on Friday. Nice one, Everton. It looked like we were trying to conserve energy. It was like, don't do anything mad. Don't go.
I thought he was just trying to nick a goal off a set.
That's what I mean. But it was
I
like
think we've been like that a lot this season. Well,
and I agree. It wasn't, and I'm not like criticising such. It just felt like, just keep it tight. Don't do anything mad. Don't go any long busting runs. Try and just keep out of trouble, because you don't want anyone coming off with injuries, and just. and just the Brighton are one of those teams that will just pass it round you. Don't engage them. Don't get too caught up in trying to chase them around the pitch, and then you'll nick it in the back four, and then try and get an opportunity. It never felt like we seemed like we were ever going to go, let's have a big mad one here. And
no, we didn't. We never looked like we went for it at any stage. I mean, the first half, I thought we started off all right, but we knocked it around when we got the opportunity to. I thought they were doing the same. We had a free kick with Hammers, didn't we, which was disappointing that he didn't hit the target. Other than that, we had a Tom Davis header, which I don't.
Fizz wide.
Yeah, fizz wide, and we had a Ben Godfrey left foot strike, which he was entitled to it. But twice in the edge of the box, we had opportunities to shoot, and twice our players. Tom passed when he should have shot, and Gylfi Sigurdsson thought that people don't tackle in the Premier League, which had Hammers punching the floor. Because
he's watched Everton a lot, so.
See, this is what I said this to my dad last night, and it's something I said to you before about training. Is that when you train against players who aren't quick, it must be really mad when you go into the Premier League and all of a sudden you're playing against quick players, because whether it's intensity in training or whether who they're training against literally aren't fast or mobile enough, how do you ever get used to playing against mobile players?
I think he's slow anyway, isn't he? Though I think I think Hammers at times got caught on the ball last night because they were just taking too much. I think you're right in the sense that we weren't going, full pelt to try and win the game. I think Carlo's real plan was to probably keep it tight and nick a goal off a set piece. Realistically, I think based on who was available, apart from Richarlison and maybe Hammers, obviously, you're not really fancying anyone to score from open play. Maybe Gylfi Sigurdsson penalty or whatever. You
have to have men in the box to win penalties.
Well, you'd also have to pass the ball through the thirds as well, or go direct. We didn't, apart from one ball which we played over the top to Richarlison, and then he decided just to play a lovely pass to the centre half. There was no real. We didn't try and stretch them in any way. I don't know. There seems to be a bit of a disjoint sometimes with Everton. It's either get the ball out to Dean, or let's play, or the tactic is pass to Hammers, isn't it really? And if it works, it works. If I think that's why Dominic Calvert-Lewin's goals are dried up, because he does rely on service, and there's nothing from the right hand side really at times, is there? And I don't know. It's so, I say it's so mismatched and disjointed. But what I will say is really disappointing is the fact that we can't pass the ball at all. The professional footballers, I wasn't the world's best footballer, but you should be able to pass the ball 5 yards, move off the ball, and say go through the lines. Everton couldn't even, move the ball at the pitch without giving the ball away. Michael Keane kept giving the ball away. Seamus Coleman was in a decent position on the halfway line, just passing straight to a Brighton player. You need to do better. It needs to be better.
But I mean, what you put it down to? You can't. They're not crap players, are they?
No, that's the issue.
They're all professional footballers.
Do you think maybe they are just crap players?
No, because when we bought these players, they were actually, some of them were actually good players. We bought, some of these players play for decent teams and decent leagues. They're not bad players. Whatever's happened at Everton, I don't know, but they just look so disjointed.
Is it confidence?
No, it's not.
So what is it? Are you just think they're crap?
I honestly, no, listen.
I'm not saying the great players.
At what point though do you have to just go, we've got crap players? Because we have got crap players. When you look at the difference between our players and some of the top side, you said it yourselves, you watch Hammers looking to find space and looking to find passes, and the people are not there. You see where players run or don't run. You see a midfield where nobody breaks forward. And Gylfi Sigurdsson is a technically good player. He doesn't go anywhere, he doesn't do anything.
Is that because, don't get me wrong, that is because of his limitations as a player, but where's the patterns of play? Now,
no, that's right.
For all I know, Carlo's running drills all day long and they're just not picking it up. But where's the pattern? There's no pattern of play out from. At the start of the season, we tried to play out from the back and mixed results. Let's be honest. We don't have a player who really is great at passing out from the back. Most of them struggle, really. Michael Keane at times is all right. The rest of them can't really do that quick pass and make triangles and break off into runs. We just can't do that. But then after that, even in the middle third, we're trying to play through, unless Andre Gomez is having a good game or Hammers drops deep, it just seems to break down. Our best things to go long to Dom, and then you play off him.
They're all limited players.
I don't think they are that limited, though.
I know, but they are though, aren't they? We laud some of our players.
I think we overrate a lot of our players. I just don't think they're as bad as they can't be as bad as that.
What I mean is that we laud a lot of our players, but they're just so average. They're like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of our, like Richarlison is hot and cold.
He's a good player, but he's hot and cold. World class by any means.
He's hot and cold. Dom, we all love Dom. We all know we're a much worse team. But we know unless you give him the ball in a certain area, he's not going to score goals. You know, someone like you mentioned before, like Andre Gomez. Jesus Christ, like it's all fair coat, no knickers, isn't it?
Oh, I've said this before,
Gylfi Sigurdsson can only do certain things. Tom Davies can only do certain things.
Yeah.
You know, Seamus Coleman can run round a little bit, but if he plays 3 games in a row, he's broke. You know, Luca Dean, bless him, is great at putting crosses in, but he's got limitations to his game as well.
But we can't. Let's be honest. We're not Man City. We can't afford players who are
I'm not. What I mean is, this is not like a. This is what I mean is that this is not a. I'm not ripping the team.
It's not functional.
I'm not ripping the team to bits. What I'm saying is, it's not. There's no couple of players that are just the difference. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like Michael Keane. Jesus Christ, have you ever seen a Jacqueline Hyde player worse than him? Some weeks you look at him and go, "Oh my God, he's amazing," and then you put him in a 3 and he falls to bits. Well, he's the equivalent of Stuart Barlow, but in defence. Someone
asked the question: is the system players in football? And the probably answer is no, there isn't. But people are better in certain situations. Michael Keane is always one of Everton's best players when we play top teams and we play a low block because he's really good at playing the narrow space.
So therefore,
you can only play the
he's limited, isn't he?
Agreed, right?
No.
But then you say, that's the issue as well.
But if you've got 9 of them,
was Ron Koeman ever going to play the low block? No, he was not. No. So why would you? Michael Keane's been fine for Everton overall, probably now.
No, he has.
You can't sign such limited players. This is where the recruitment has to be. I think has to be better. I think last summer it was good. Would I have signed as many older players? They've been good. So yeah, it's worked out well as it seems.
No, you wouldn't. Don't.
I wouldn't. No, but that's just me because I look a bit further on. But they've both been good when they played. You know, I know Hammers. We knew he had his injury problems.
Yeah, of course.
He wouldn't be at Everton without them. So it's no problem with that. The issue, though, going forward is it has to be, and the idea has to be the same continuously. So even when Carlo goes, if it's David, if it's Duncan, if it's another manager, we can't go from Carlo to like, oh, I fancy this style now, where it's like, you know, Klopp, or whoever who presses all the time, because we won't have the players to press all the time. We've got to have different players.
I don't personally even look that far. I look at what Carlo's doing, and I think we can't afford to buy any more now of these halfy players.
But the problem is Carlos trusts these players, though, doesn't he? That's the problem.
Has he got a choice?
Now, if it was me, no, you'd say to him, this is the Everton's plan, and you were working with him.
Nathan Broadhead come off the bench. He's older than Tom Davies. That's our youth.
Making his debut.
That's our youth.
I think
that's the gap in the youth team.
I think for me, where the limitations really are is the mobility of them.
Yeah.
I think if you've got people who can move around a pitch, then you can create those angles. You're talking about we can't pass through. The big difference with teams who are trying to pass the ball is that their players pass it and move it. They follow it. So if you pop it into me and you've gone, then it's an easy pass for me. What Everton will do is they'll pass it, knock it round, great, between themselves. Don't go anywhere. Because everyone stands still.
Well, that's your example. You pass to Gylfi Sigurdsson, usually the ball comes back.
Exactly.
Because he's not going to do it on the half. He's not going to take on the half.
He's not going to take it. He's not going to turn. He's not going to pass it.
It's not just him. Tom Davies just likes to
move
the ball.
And that's that. You find that with whoever's playing centre forward. Whoever's playing centre forward in that team, when the ball gets to him, look around. There's no one who's gone past them.
No third man.
There's no one gone past them wide. There's no one coming through the middle. That's why James Rodriguez has to drop so deep, because he knows even if he picks that ball up, he suddenly then has to look round. He has to be deeper to have options further forward, because if he's higher up the pitch, he doesn't have options. Luca Dean has always been the outball, but you know that can't be the outball all the time.
Because that's what people get onto. And
that's why against Crystal Palace we made more chances, because we had an outball left and right, because we had someone finally playing on the right hand side. The team's just so unbalanced; it's unbelievable. And there has to be now. They have to bring in 4 or 5 young, hungry, mobile players. We're not
talking about 19, 20. We're talking between the ages of 23 and 26, or 22 and 26, who've played who've got experience, but can also provide to the first team, and they're just in that right age bracket. There's a reason teams who like Leipzig only sign young players, because they recover quicker, they can run more, they can run further. Sign too many old players, which narrows your window too much. We're going to end up with it, we have to change the whole team again.
There's got to be a balance in the squad, and at the moment there isn't a balance in the squad, and that balance, athleticism, that balance, mobility. You can have good footballers.
You need a sprinkle in the minutes.
You've got to have, Hammers in a team with 4 or 5 players who can move around. It'll be fantastic. We know he's his qualities. The ball he put through to Sigurdsson last night wasn't even a pass. It wasn't on. He took 3 men out the game. Just Sigurdsson had no I had to go with him because I thought he should have cut it back. When I watched it again, there was nobody anyway. He done well to get a corner, but if you imagine playing that ball and you've got 3 men who can run onto it, he's got that ability. We haven't got that, and that was what we saw in that first half, is that our best stuff did come from James and Seamus Coleman. But Seamus Coleman at 32 and a half shouldn't be the one who were trying to play a ball inside the fullback. We were talking about Dan James yesterday, and Dan James isn't of course he's not. He's
lightning though.
But he's quick.
He's got on.
But that's the kind of ball that you can play.
Yeah.
Where you're asking Seamus Coleman to do it.
The problem
At his age.
simple fact with people like Seamus Coleman and Luca Dean is it has to be a perfect ball every time because the pair of them haven't got any pace really left in them. Seamus hasn't. He's busy. He's mobile, but he's not fast. He's
not got that turn of pace. Like
he hasn't got a turn of pace.
And he doesn't ever have anyone over there helping him either.
So if you stick a ball inside the fullback, you know it's got to be a great ball. Whereas someone like Dan James will make a bad ball
good,
better.
Yeah.
I know. Has he got the final product? Well, maybe not. You know, we've seen it when we had Walcott. He could catch them. What he did next was always the big problem, wasn't it? We just.
But then that option of stretching seems to all create chance on the side.
No, exactly.
And we don't have that. I think the issue in wide areas and forward areas is we have players who want the ball, who don't do anything off the ball. Iwobi, Bernard, all a similar type, who want to be on the ball, but they're not James, so James gets the ball. And there's the issue. You need players who run in behind, who want to score goals. Like Richarlison does sometimes, not so much this season. He's not been, for whatever reason, not as effective. Overall, you know, I think he's only converted 11% of his chances, which is way under what it needs to be, let's be honest. But that's what we need, more players who can stretch the teams. And then you allow James more space to operate, because the longer this start lasts now, where we're not stretching teams, is the more they'll just hone in on James, and the more ineffective he'll end up being.
Well, we've seen last night, the odd kick on the leg, the odd kick on the...
Stand on his foot, yeah.
I mean, it's just a good job we had such a strong referee last night. God, how many times do you need to kick him for it to get a foul?
The one on the edge of the box when he got brought down.
What made it worse?
And then it went to the halfway line, their lad threw himself down, he gave a free kick.
This what makes you show referees have no clue about football. We got a player kicked on the edge of the box, James Rodriguez. The ball went to Gylfi Sigurdsson, right? And the ref thought that was an advantage to us. Gylfi Sigurdsson having the ball on the edge of the box, he thought that was an advantage to us.
I don't think the refs know the rules, because I think the rules have changed too much. I think, like the offside, like look at that Bartley thing the other day. What the hell was that? You can't draw a line, it's offside. That's not really.
That isn't how it works.
You
go with the advantage of the but whatever. That's a different game.
But no, I think we went in at 0-0 at half time. In fact, you messaged me, didn't you, and said at half time 0-0. It's got 0-0 written all over it. And we come out for the second half, and it just followed the same pattern, didn't it? They knocked it down.
They got a bit more confidence.
They had a little bit more confidence because we were just sitting back. But there was no, I mean, you're looking and thinking, obviously we lost another player, which is part of the course, Yerry Mina. And that was us giving the ball away cheaply, and he's having to react to it. And then Iwobi comes on, and you're thinking, here's a player now. We've paid money for him.
Sorry, I'm just looking to see if the real Baz is here.
No, he did, to be fair, Sex Baz and said, Iwobi's going to probably come on because we've got nothing else. And Baz said, he won't do anything. He didn't.
There you go. Because, listen, Alex Iwobi, and this is funny, I don't know whether we said this on camera or off camera, but talking about players who were decent players before they come here, go and look at him in his last season for Arsenal.
Ped said he well looked at it, yeah.
You look at him, he's a different player. He's somebody who can run. He passes, he scored a few goals, and he's come to Everton. And it's just gone like that. He had a little resurgence earlier in the season where he played about 4 or 5 games where he was good. And then he's gone off again. And he come on last night and he played him in the middle, which is where he kind of wants to play. And he done. I
don't think the first thing that was funny, that was the first ball to him was a high ball to try and hold up like a striker. No, but he's too much on the peripheral games at the end of the day, and Everton needs someone to come on the pitch and get hold of the game. And he tried for about a minute or two, he dropped in, tried to play an out ball to Dean, what was behind him, whatever. And then obviously had the chance where, as I said, I probably would have banked on Arsenal scoring probably more than Iwobi, but you know, that's that. And then you bring Nathan Broadhead on, what's coming off the bet? You know, there's not really much we can do there. You know, I would have brought on Kunku on because he's got pace and he can drive at people and cross the ball, but Carlo obviously at this moment in time doesn't trust him, and I think that's where the big issue is. Apart from Iwobi, who did he trust on that bench to get you come on? And that's the key thing with managers. When the pressure's on, which we are now to get Europe, they'll only trust the finite amount of players.
Let me ask you about a style of play, because we haven't got one, have we? Would you? No. But what I mean is, I would say now, and I said this on my Matt's reaction, that what we're seeing at the moment is akin to what we were served up under Sam Allardyce. The same kind of football,
Same players.
Same, right? No, what I'm saying to you, Marco Silva, whether you, and I know you two didn't like him, but Marco Silva
Bronze.
team at least tried to play some football. It wasn't very good at it.
Doesn't make
Right.
it doesn't make a difference.
No, but what I'm saying is what we're seeing now. Let me just read you something out. 12 points out of a possible 33. 3 or less shots on target in 7 of those 11 games.
Have we been outshot in 17 out of 18 games as well?
Something like that, right? So there, straight off the bat, what do you think Carlo Ancelotti has a style of play, or
No,
do you
he
think?
doesn't.
Or do you think?
But bringing terrible managers into the conversation who try to play football.
No, I'm asking you about the style.
No,
of play.
I know, but
So I'm
there's
saying
no
to
point
you-
bringing saying someone else tried to play good football when they didn't have
The horses.
didn't have a clue. His problem is the same problem any manager would have right now, is that 2 of those starters last night, outfield starters, were his players. And he's not going to get anywhere until people start giving him the tools to do the job. What was the point? What was the point? Said this when he came in. What would be the point of bringing him in if you're not going to get him the kind of players he's worked with at the top? Right? This will be the first ever time he will not have finished in the top 6 as a manager.
Potentially. Well,
Mate, I'm not even.
until it's
I'll be
mathematically
honest with you,
possible,
mate.
you don't
I don't even think we're finishing top half at this stage, right?
Don't say that.
I genuinely don't, because I don't. I look at other teams.
That'd be a bad season.
I look at other teams and I think they've got momentum and we haven't. Right? This will be the first time, and it's because the players are crap. But and I don't.
I mean, we finished 12th last season.
But the players are crap. It's when you compare them to what like we've just said there, and you look at the type of players Chelsea have got, and you look at the type of players Leicester have got. West Ham are having a solid season, a brilliant season for them, and they've done it in a different way. They've done it in a very Moyes kind of way, and really that's what Carlo's tried to do. Carlo got to end of November, looked at the team and just went, "This isn't fit for purpose. I'm going to have to go fully defensive," and it got us a lot of points, and that's what he's done, and that's why we saved up crap football, because he looked at him and the alternative is trying to play good attacking football and getting beat. Because don't forget, we couldn't defend. Remember, we could not defend. We were shipping goals like it was going out of fashion. And what he did was, he turned us around and he said, I would rather have a clean sheet and maybe nick a point or maybe nick 3 points. And it served us well. It's what got basically all these away points.
That was kind of my point.
No, we don't have a star pass. I completely agree with you. But the problem is, until I see at least 6 players outfield, but they have to play 20 games together.
Yeah. No, that was kind of my point.
But it's not his fault, because if you employ a manager like Carlo, there's no point just going, we've got Carlo Ancelotti. You've got to back him. You've got to give him plays.
Yeah. No, that was my point. I was trying to make.
The style's crap.
Right. The style isn't good, but that was what I was going to say, and it was because you'd said something before as well.
Go on, what's your...
Have we gone to this default way of playing, because it is about trying to get into Europe and it's points over development.
So when he came in, there was 2 ways he could have went about it, right? And this is what all managers do now. So when he came in, he could have went like a Klopp or whoever. Klopp had better horses, so we'll say, whoever manager comes in who's got a specific style play and basically implements it, and they have mixed results until they get the players. Now, would Everton fans really wait a year and a half, 2 years of being mid-table? We might still be that way now, by the way, and conceding goals and losing games and get beat by big teams, trying to insert style of football, or because the pressure's on for us to get European football. Carlo's decided, probably rightfully in some ways. Don't be wrong, I can't forgive some of the passing, but overall, to limit the chances, be pragmatic, and win or draw games. That's the way. That's because the pressure's on. That's the way he has to play in a sense. Because, like at the start of the season, we were beating teams 4-5. We conceded 2 a game, and then what happened is we stopped scoring and we were still conceding 2 a game. You can't. And the manager decided, thinking, until I get my players in, I have to be pragmatic. I have to limit the flaws within this team because the players have got a flaw. And Everton fans, I understand, and I.
That's a version of coaching as well, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is.
You've got it's smoke and mirrors, isn't it? You're hiding what you haven't got and you accentuate what you have got. You've got good defenders.
That was what I mean. That was going to be my point. Was going to be another clean sheet last night. Well, another clean sheet. It's a clean sheet last night. It's highlighted that we can be good defensively, hasn't it? Because he had to. Because we were sat here in November going, to be honest, I'd rather us play for 0-0 and see if we can nick. We were saying that, weren't we? And that's kind of what he did. And all of a sudden, and we still only lost 3 away games. And we're in the middle of April. So that side of it's been good. And that side of it got us into the conversation for Champions League. And I think for me, the frustration is after we beat West Brom, which was early March, we were in a fantastic position. We were right in the race for the top 4 and we fell off a cliff.
Let me flip it the other way then. Do you think that when we beat West Brom, was that our last win?
That was the last win.
Okay, say when we beat, should he have gone, I'm taking the handbrake off now. We're going for Europe and we're going to attack teams. Do you think it would have been better or worse, like results wise?
Yeah.
Do you think in certain games though you could change it up slightly? Didn't
he change it up against Palace though? Didn't he change against Palace? And
He did. We created chance.
Why didn't we win the game against Palace?
Because we weren't clinical.
The biggest issue was Burnley, wasn't it? We had a team coming to Goodison who aren't very good. They're well organised, but they're not very good. But we played defensively against them for some reason, and they got 2 goals up. And then we missed chances. We scored, and then
I think the home form, obviously, I think at home, the way we play the home is because we're not picking up results there. So you try and throw different things to try and get results there.
Yeah, let me ask you this, because I know you weren't a big advocate of Josh King coming in, right? But that Burnley game,
no, was
the perfect opportunity to go. We just won 3 on the run. We're in the top. We can see the top 4. We had a game in hand, blah, 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 blah. Got Burnley at home. We were 4th from bottom. Don't score goals. They score 0.8 goals a game. So they're not a real goal threat. We'll play 4-3-3 with Josh King, Dom and Richarlison, and we'll get at these. And we didn't. We kind of played within ourselves. And before we knew it, we were 2-0 down, and the points had gone up.
I personally don't think he trusts Josh King tactically. I think because we concede too many goals, I think when he's trusted players at times this season, he's trusted a because he's been working harder defensively. And then when he stopped doing that, he's took him up the team. I think that's the bit. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't great anyway at times, but I think that's the key. And I think I think it probably scares him to play that many attacking players because he worries with James in the team at times as well. And James didn't play in that game.
But the flip side is though, we said when we got beat by Newcastle, because we did start with an attacking team that day, that if we played home games like we played away games, we'd win games. Yeah. And when we did that against, we tried to do that. And let's be honest, they hit us with a sucker punch goal and a worldie.
It's easy for me to sit here and go, we should have. And
I just think it comes down to the players.
But I think, I think
the manager trusting the players, and he's worked with top players. It is a bit of a bit juxtaposed to go to players who can't do what you're asking. It is tough.
Isn't it the same now?
He has to evolve as well, by the way.
Isn't one of the big... And I'm not defending it one way or another. I'm just looking at it from... I think our play... We look at some of our plays like the brilliant and the not. And it's probably the same a bit for like Carlo as well because of the stage he is. I think it's not even... For me, I think Carlo... I'm not saying he's lost the desire. I think he's at a stage in his life where he probably... The man's got 2 assistants, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean? He probably passes a lot of stuff off to other people. Marcel Brands probably goes, do you want this player? And he probably goes, yeah, it's fine, yeah, whatever. You know, Dad, can we do this thing? And saying, yeah, go ahead, David, lad, do what you want, lad.
I don't think it's quite that bad.
You know what I mean? No, like, I get the feeling that he's like, when it comes to match day, I pick the team. And I put a big coat and point a lot in training, but I'm happy to pass a few things. He's probably that's delegating. No. He's probably a lot more. Alex Ferguson did it in his last years. Because he's probably a lot more relaxed about what goes on at the club, rather than being that like fierce fella who's like sitting on the touchline with a ciggy like that for 90 minutes. He's at a stage of his life that he doesn't necessarily need that. I don't know whether we need that as a club or we need to be someone who is more fierce. I don't know, but. I just look at the whole thing and we just pass too much off. There's too many players who don't do enough, and I just think
that's about culture, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
you've got to create that winning culture.
I think the culture of the club
I understand why they got Carlo to create that. It may take him time to do it. He may not be able to do it. Maybe we needed a manager in between the Carlos to get us to say. Who knows? We'll find out.
Ultimately, though, it comes down to what you give him, the raw ingredients. If you get him, I've said it all the time, you bring a manager like Carlo Ancelotti, you can't be giving him some of the dross we've given. You've got to give him...
He took the job knowing what we had, though. And
Did he, though?
I don't know if he understood the FFP restrictions. Well, it's more the Premier League cross and loss.
Yeah,
that's the big restriction on us. I don't know whether he understood that because I wasn't in the meetings. He could have been told, he might not have been, whatever. That's the big thing, because realistically, I think, as it's well known, Everton probably could go out and spend £200 million, and we could get sponsors upon sponsors off different people. There are rules, though, that we can't break, because no one's ever broke the Premier League profit and loss rules, by the way. That's never been, even Man City, because Emirates or whatever, but they've never done it. So Everton are not going to be the first to do it, because let's be honest, Everton do it. They'd be getting slapped down with the biggest fan, wouldn't they? But that's,
and I do think
£10 million fine.
Don't get me wrong, I do think behind the scenes, Everton are trying to manoeuvre themselves.
You've got to,
into a position where he can start being a bit better. I mean, we've seen the only little things, with the stadium rights and even the thing last week with the company that he might own, but he might not own, and all that kind of. I think we are manoeuvring ourselves into a position where our FFP is going to be better and all that kind of thing. But it is glacial. It does feel. This whole season's felt glacial, hasn't it? That's part of the problem. You're not in the grounds. You're not there to feel like you affect it, and everything just drags and drags and drags. But one of the things my point originally then, before I went off on one, was going to be one of the big problems is not only on the pitch have we not had the players, but in training we haven't had the players. So like you said before, if you haven't got 24, 22 players training week in, week out, and I know that doesn't always happen anyway, but if you haven't got 22 competitive players in training every week, battling against each other to take that spot, working on those little things with, your midfield three of the core, Allen and James Rodriguez, how's that ever going to build on the pitch?
You need relationships and
exactly, and we have been decimated all season with injuries. This isn't a new thing, and I'm not making excuses going we would be miles better. I'm not saying we would be, but I do think we've been limited because we haven't been able to build those in those areas where we need to. Put it this way, when people were putting the ball in the right area for Dom, he was scoring all the time, and then as soon as that stopped, and I think we know this ourselves, big part of our problem this season has been because Seamus Coleman got injured early on and we couldn't replicate anyone on that right hand side, and then suddenly everything shifted to the left, and then people then start targeting James Rodriguez. Stop James Rodriguez before he gets the ball out of his feet, take a foul, take a yellow card, no matter what, take a turn to Newcastle like they did.
They kicked us off,
and then you can't make that. Then Dean's making that run, and then people go, well, just stop Dean's run, stop James Rodriguez.
It becomes predictable, and you're telegraphing
and
things.
If you haven't got anyone down the right, which we haven't had.
Well, the same happened in the Silver, and again, I don't want to bring him up, but it ended up the same way. It was just going left, and that's all you do. When teams get onto that, you basically nullify it completely. And I think that's why we need better players, because then we can stretch teams out and break teams down in different ways. But we're going to have to deal with what we're going to have to deal with at the end of the season.
We did play last night. Let's have a look at the stats. Let's have a look at the stats from
the game.
Going
for the stats,
0-0, 23 shots from Brighton, 8 from Everton, 3 on target for Brighton, 1 for Everton.
Too much possession.
Too much possession. We're in the wrong
38
spot.
is the sweet spot.
38%
Last won the title with around that,
Exactly, no big chances for either side.
No.
Leicester had 500 passes, Everton had 400 passes.
We played Brighton, but that's all.
Brighton, I mean, because you mentioned Leicester won it, and Leicester's won it with 28%, but there you go. Mason Holgate for me was man of the match. I gave him my man of the match because I didn't think anyone else really done anything, to be honest. 51 touches, 82%.
To be fair, it could have been anyone on 5.
It's probably assuming he's not even playing.
82% accurate passes, completed 3 out of his 5 long balls, so 60% there. 3 clearances, 1 block shot, 2 interceptions, and he went and finished the last half an hour back in the back.
Should he play? Should that be his position?
It's too small of a sample size. And again, though, if he was surrounded by 2 proper midfielders,
that's what I was going to say.
Then maybe in certain games he can play there. I think it's come to like this. His best position is the right centre back and the back 3, and we probably won't be playing that.
But we won't play it, so you've got to think.
But then he's a good utility player. He can play midfield, he can play right. But you've got to have those in your squad. Yeah. John O'Shea, those type of players. You've got to have those players in your squad.
See, I think he can play in that role and do it well, but he
would
can't.
Be a first choice, yeah.
But he can't play in that role when we've got 2 immobile midfield players with him. To do that, you're saying to him, right, today's a battle. You just sit. We're going to take the game to them.
But then you've got Tom has to play exactly the same role. So is Tom above in front of him? It means he's not really past that position. Tom should be the third option.
All right, but is he? Okay, let me ask you this then: is he more of an athlete than Tom Davies?
He is, yes. But when it comes,
but what's the point of being an athlete if you're playing in a position where you don't move.
But you've still got to be able to go and cut the box
because
off.
if you're gonna play people high, if you're gonna start playing high line,
He doesn't,
you need to cover the back
he doesn't
four.
move because he's playing with two other lads.
No, I know, and that's what I mean.
So it's like
now.
putting the three of them.
That's what
It was
I
like
mean.
they had the rope
If you're not
tied
going to have
around
your
the
wingers
waist.
come back, you have to have mobile.
They've got to
midfielders
be
who cover
mobile.
the-
So maybe last night, because of who he was with.
But that means do you keep Tom then? I'm not saying we shouldn't, because I like Tom Davis, but he's always going to be a squad player. I think now
he's
we can
gonna be a
settle.
squad player, isn't he?
He's not going to be an Everton starter in the future. But then you've got to make a decision then, is that's Mason Holgate's position? Do we need a Tom Davis because we could use that spot for someone else? That's... we don't need too many players. We need players who can actually move the ball forward rather than 7 number 6s, if you get what I mean.
I think Mason Holgate will always want to be a centre-back.
Yeah.
And will fancy himself playing a centre-back. He's not a right-back. He could play that position, yeah. I think what that showed you last night is between him and Ben Godfrey is seen as the future of Everton centre-back and probably the future number 1 centre-back and probably the future captain and
you hope so.
king of the world, whatever. You know,
If he learns how to pass the ball, yeah.
And I think Mason will have to fight for that. His fight would be made a lot easier if we sold Michael Keane. A lot easier. Well, I think it's easier anyway because I think he...
Well, Mourinho likes him, doesn't he?
But yeah, he did all right. So just
Do you know, it was a hard game to look good in because Everton were just so disjointed and they never did anything. James played actually all right, but he was trying to do too much, which affected his performance. I think in a normal game he can pick his spots every 5 or 6 minutes and create more problems. He just couldn't do anything because he didn't have any players to play with.
There's no runners.
And Richarlison, he was one of those games where 5 minutes in.
Yeah, you knew after 5 minutes he wasn't going to affect the game.
He just didn't fancy. He just wasn't getting any service and he gets frustrated very easily, which is why he's sometimes better playing on the wing because he gets more of the ball.
There you go. I mean, it was, yeah. There's not really much to talk about the game. That's why we talked about it.
Well, no, because Brighton, on the opposite side, Brighton, nice in possession, but they get to the final there and it's Danny Welbeck, you look at Neil Maupay and they just don't have
There's a reason why they're 5th from bottom.
Yeah, they
are full on.
The data darlings because they miss all the chances, but they're never going to score. Like, you look at last night, it's like Lallana's trying to score these worldy efforts. They're not creating quality chances. They're creating a lot of chances, but not quality chances.
Just shooting from 25
They are
yards.
full Shane McGowan, aren't they? Toothless.
Do you know what? That's quality. You need to be able to buy quality. And
They haven't got the money to buy centre forwards, have they? Who can put the ball in the net.
as soon as you start scoring more than 5 goals, your price goes up.
You're gone.
It's the big issue.
Well, if they sell Basuma, they might be able to.
Get one, which would be a good bit of business for them. Sell Basuma and get
Ivan
a
Toney
centre
in.
forward. Then he can. Oh,
Ivan Toney, yeah.
yeah, he'd be a good one. Be a good one.
But hopefully not, right?
24. He's still a risk, isn't he? There you go. That is us for that game. It wasn't great, was it? But we've talked about the real issues. Don't want to talk about the real issues.
Well, they all come into that game, didn't they?
So there you go. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, if you want to watch the rest of this.
We're staying on. We're going on Patreon more now, longer, live. Interaction, questions, get them in.
Juggle them.
Like that.
But that's
Juggle
on
them as
Patreon
well.
live, and you won't be here because you're going off right now.
So anyway, nice one. See you later.